It's a brand new week and the final episode of the year. Or is it? A whole new conversation. Welcome back to 360 Speedway. Welcome back to 360 Speedway HQ. How are you? Hope you are well and looking forward to the festive period. Getting close now. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 33. Without any, potentially, but we'll come back to this a little bit later on, the final regular episode of season number 1 of 360 Speedway. Without any 2-minute warning, let's get ourselves up to tapes then, introducing this week's lineup of Speedway punditry excellence. First up this week, you asked, you pleaded, we ignored you completely, we have brought him back, only kidding of course, behind the mic, once again this week, it is the deep thinking DEAN FELTON. Hey Dean, welcome back.
Hi Derek, hi everyone.
Good to see you. Next up, the Sunderland superstar himself, my words not his. He is like me, a veteran of the 360 Speedway scene, more appearances than a magician's rabbit. It's been a tough week. It's a quick welcome back at that to Stuart Robson. Hey Stuart.
Hello everybody. How's everyone doing?
This week's lineup for episode 33, the man of many clubs, or several at least, the man of many baseball hats, that's for sure. He knows good stuff too about the Speedway scene. Welcome back to Lawrence here. Hey Lawrence.
Evening all.
I'm liking tonight's little number, Lawrence.
Good to see you, bro.
Collectively, this week's handlebar heroes, usual disclaimer applies that all of the views and opinions expressed by us are those of us as individuals and bear no resemblance to any clubs, former or current, that we were or are associated to. Let's crack on then with episode 33. Okay, here we go. If you are ready, let's begin. To get us underway this week, we're back on 360 interview mode, just in time for Christmas. To accommodate this week's guest, this interview has been recorded separate to the remaining discussion in this week's episode. Given the time of year, we particularly wanted to speak with a wise man from the East if we could find one. We couldn't. Instead, we're about to speak with a super talented guy from the Northeast, if I'm not mistaken. He's become, in many ways, the new voice of British Speedway through his BSN exploits. The man who wishes he could collect points for his motorway mileage. Welcome to 360 Speedway, Mr. Ian Brannann. Hello, Ian.
Well, great to be here. Thank you very much. What an intro. I am indeed from the east, on the northeast coast. I can tell it's blowing a gale. But as for the motorway points, I could certainly do with that. But there's no consistency. I'm not loyal to one particular petrol station, so I need a lot of them.
Wouldn't that be a great concept, that you could collect reward points for visiting certain service stations or whatever it might be? Maybe there is something like that. Maybe there's a whole world out there of mileage loyalty points that just have passed me by.
You get Nectar points at Sainsbury's. You can do that, and if you play your cards right, we'll just about pay for your Christmas shop. So now is the time that I'm cashing that in.
A nice perk, Mr. Brannann. Listen, great to be joined by you, Ian. As I mentioned, you become a well-recognised face and voice around the British Speedway scene. Just how many autographs, Ian Brannann, do you have to sign over the course of a Speedway season?
Very few, unfortunately. I'm not quite that status yet. I think probably about 2. I mean, to be honest, it's like Greg Blair. He gets the. They'll come and say, "Oh, can I have a photo?" And then they'll give me the camera. So,
do you know, it's funny, and I shouldn't say this in public, but I will because it really tickles me. Over the course of a season at Glasgow doing Centric, I have been asked to do autographs. There are some kids who quite think that I'm some sort of celebrity. So anyway, I oblige them and feel a little bit sheepish and look at the appearance as if to say, no, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's crack on. Ian, our timing is pretty good because I know that you will be off on your international travels very soon. So we'll come back to that in a bit, Ian. Let's take a look, if you don't mind, at the Speedway life and times of Ian Brandon a little bit. Just to open up, Ian, remind us, and some people might not know this whatsoever, when did that initial interest spark in the world of Speedway for you, Ian Brannann?
I've been a Speedway fan all of my life, and my first Speedway meeting I attended was one before I was born, and that would be the 1977 World Final at the Levy Stadium in Gothenburg. I was there. Didn't get a great view of that, but yeah. So yeah, my parents went, and I used to go to Halifax and then Bradford, but yeah, Halifax as far back as I can remember. Literally, there's the earliest memories I have really, and Kenny Carter in the Kenny Carter fan club when that was a good thing to be in, Bruce Pennell and all these sort of riders, Doug Wire and various others of that era of faint memory. But then of course, probably when I was about 8 or 9 or so, it was about the time they would have moved to Bradford. So and followed them there until Bradford ceased racing to have the roof put on the Odsal Stadium, which they still haven't quite managed yet, but maybe next year. So then to be honest, I sort of fell away from it a little bit, just as many people do, because. Mm-hmm. When your club shuts down, you've got nowhere to go. Yeah. And for me, it was a time when I'd moved away, working, and I moved to the northeast, and I actually did pick up a little bit going to Newcastle once or twice, but more, it was more sort of passive, a bit more of it nostalgic. But then eventually did get back into it, and one thing led to another, and I started a podcast, and that led to another podcast, and that led to BSN, and here we are.
And here we are. Listen, I've got to say, you barely look old enough to be remembering Kenny Carter and the likes back in the 70s. I've just realised that 2026 marks about my 50th season of following Speedway, and that makes me feel really old. I was -10 when I started, to be fair.
Well, I was certainly -1. I'm 47, so I'll be 48 next year. So been following Speedway as long as I can humanly remember within that time. So I'm not far behind.
Yeah. Ian, listen, I think of you, and I'm being slightly tongue in cheek here, and you know that I am, as a red car fan. So be completely honest, Ian Brannann, when you're commentating on a Bears fixture, are you secretly cheering for red car inside your head?
Well, look, I think you've got to look at where the BSN's roots are, and whilst I'm probably by proxy now a red car fan. I've done a lot of stuff for Red Car Speedway,
exactly.
And I used to go to Red Car before I got involved, in behind the curtain and into the dark arts and stuff. I did go to Red Car. I was a paying punter. I didn't go every week, but I went, maybe once a month or twice a month. When you get a chance, I was working, often on a Friday night, so it wasn't easy for me to get there, to be honest. And that's the situation for a lot of people even now. But yeah, Red Car, I enjoyed the track, and I used to go, and that's Red Car is where BSN is born out of. Yes. Ben Duffield and Martin Hunter have both got a long history with Speedway, not just at Red Car, but Middlesbrough as well. So with that in mind, how I came into BSN was actually they'd set up a live stream, or they were trying to set up a live stream for Red Car, and they were doing off-air commentary, so that it was all set up, the cameras are there. But when you do these things, it's usually good practice to try and iron out as many problems as you can before you actually go live. And that was the case for Red Car. So they were doing full fixtures, doing full meetings, not quite the same as BSN do now, but nobody was seeing them. They were totally offline. And and I was commentating on them, and I was actually the co-commentator to begin with. I'd never done any commentary at all until then. So whilst I've worked in broadcasting all my sort of life, it's not something I've ever really done and never really properly attempted. So yeah, it came, and so it was born out of that. So yeah, we probably do have a bit of a soft spot for Redcar being our home team, but at the same time, you can't say we want Speedway commentary and Speedway production done by Speedway fans who know what they're talking about, and then expect those fans to not have a horse in the race somewhere along the line.
Yes.
So we've got to be affiliated to somebody. We try and keep it as obviously as neutral as possible. But when it's Redcar in a superheat decider or whatever, it's there's an extra edge to it. Put it that way.
Well, listen, don't talk about superheat deciders. Ian. I'm still not quite over what happened back in October. But anyway, let's talk BSN, Ian. The concept, the delivery, the appetite, the model, all super professional, and I think very widely acknowledged as being the best innovation in British Speedway in quite some time. And that's a genuine compliment and one which is shared very widely across the Speedway community. That really must be something special to be now a very big part of, Ian.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure from start to now, and obviously it's just a case of building on it every year, little bit by bit. When it first started, nobody knew how it was really going to turn out. I remember sitting where I am now and having a conversation with Nigel Pearson, bless him, and prior to his untimely departure, and I was talking to him about it, and I said that I was going to start doing some work for it, and at the time it was sort of it was an unknown, and Nigel as well. I hope it goes well. It could be massive. If they get it right, it will be absolutely brilliant. But if they get it wrong, it's not going to be a place you want to be. So it was like that. He did say to me, "Are you sure that that's the right thing to do?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a good feeling about it." And they know what they're doing. The amazing thing about it is that there's only really me and Jason Harold in the team who have actually got broadcasting experience as such, and how far that everyone has learned. I mean, I've learned because even though I've got broadcasting experience, I've never done commentary until I first started doing it. And so we're learning every time. Every time we do a show, we're learning, and it's just building those little blocks, show by show, meeting by meeting. And that's why I wanted to do as many fixtures as I could, was because, well, if we're going to be good at it, then I need as much practice. Not only doing one a month, because then it's going to take it's going to take me years to get anywhere. So I said, well, if I'm doing it, I'm all in. I'll do as many as I can, and that's the same case for most people. So we're sort of growing together and just gradually improving, I suppose, in small ways, but that equates to a big thing in the end. But yeah, it wasn't easy at the start, of course. The technical demands were probably a bit steeper than we'd maybe anticipated to begin with, and that involved some big investment from Ben and Martin to buy basically the professional grade gear. I mean, we're using really expensive gear. This wasn't sort of cheap stuff out of Tesco's. This was, professional streaming gear to begin with, but just the sheer demands of how many cameras and replays and all this kind of stuff, it just couldn't handle it. And also the uplink to get the stream out. Again, not an easy thing to do. So now we are using, and have been since the early days, after the first sort of 5 or 6 streams, I think, professional gear, the same stuff that they use on TNT and stuff like that to get streams out there. And since then, from a technical point of view, it's been much more stable. And that allows you then to crack on with doing the actual project and bringing improving the show and adding to the staff as you go as well, and getting the right people involved. And it's been fantastic that people have embraced it and spotted the difference between BSN and say TNT or Eurosport or whoever, because they are different propositions, but hopefully, we bring a bit, the professionalism, but also a bit more relaxed, but also a bit more sort of, we can go a bit geekier on like technical sort of stuff as well. So we know we do have a point of difference. We don't want to kind of just do what everybody else has done until now.
And you mentioned it yourself, but it's very apparent outside looking in, the year-on-year improvements. By golly, you guys are even flying drones nowadays to take aerial shots of stadiums and things.
It's down there.
It's these sort of, you got the drone there, I mean. It's these sort of innovations and things, year-on-year, and people, Speedway fans, and we're all connected to Speedway communities at our local level, and I know that here in Glasgow, there's quite a big audience, quite a big appetite to drink up all the offerings that you guys produce. Ian, you mentioned this as well. You're a pro broadcaster away from Speedway. Tell us a little bit about your recent past in terms of pro broadcasting. Ian.
Yeah, well, I've always worked in radio. So
perfect
Sorry,
the perfect face, Ian.
Well, indeed. I never intended to be in front of the camera. So I've always worked in radio from leaving school. So that's quite a long time ago now, but that was 1997, 1998 when I first started, and I used to do travel news. Then worked at various radio stations. Most recently for the likes of Heart, and then Smooth Radio and Commercial Radio, and then now for the last year, and indeed for next year, for the BBC in the Northwest. So I work for Radio Cumbria and Radio Lancashire and present a Saturday breakfast show on those two stations. So I'm still doing a bit of radio work, and it's great to be involved in. And then aside that, I do voiceover work. So I've been a professional voiceover now for the last 10, 12 years or so, which is why I have my own little padded cell that I have in my garage. So I do loads of stuff. So radio commercials, radio imaging, which is like, promos on certain radio stations. So I'm on quite a few radio stations across the UK, notably Nation Radio, which is in various places now, including Scotland and the South Coast and Wales. So I do that, and for a few of the radio stations as well, radio commercials, also like corporate videos. I'm also filming corporate videos now, so doing like video production service.
Amazing.
Yeah, various little bits and bobs, but
living the dream.
Yeah, but then the Speedway stuff really fits in sort of around that, so it's good because I can do a lot of that wherever I am.
And talking about voices and people hearing your voice, you are now the voice of the SGP Rider Parade. Am I right?
Well, I was, and I don't know if I still am. For the last couple of years, when the riders come out, they did this countdown. Now I've done that for the Premiership as well the last couple of years, where they have this. There's a Phil Morris wanted to get like a countdown to the start of the meeting, because I sort of felt that meetings were just sort of starting out of nowhere, and there was no kind of build up to get people focused and in the game. And same for the Grand Prix really. So they wanted this countdown. So I came up with this countdown sequence for the Grand Prix. And it actually won a voiceover award. I mean, it's not a big award for most people in their lives, but in the voiceover industry, there's not too many award ceremonies, and that did actually win for like a live event category. So that was pretty good. But so counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, then it's like, welcome to Speedway Grand Prix of Poland, Manchester. You insert your name here. I've got a session file because I produced them all with every single combination of every single track. So, and I did do a video for someone where they asked me to play them all at once, and I did, and it sounded horrific. So, so that was really cool. And I heard it in Manchester, but to hear it last year in Cardiff, when they were playing it in Cardiff, that was pretty weird. But cool.
Listen, it's got quite another string to your bow, Ian. That would tickle me if I was in your shoes. Ian, we talked about the BSN, and I mentioned about the mileage, motorway mileage earlier. Have car, have van, will travel appears to be the BSN motto, and it's not lost on us that BSN have to be super reactive, super responsive at short notice. quite often to changes in speedway fixtures and such like. Ian, I mean, I've asked you this question before, but for the 360 audience, how many motorway miles does Ian Brrannan do in a typical season?
Well, me personally, I can tell you because I've just had my car serviced in the MOT. Well, I did 30,000 miles in the last year. Now, not all of that is speedway miles, but most of it is. So I think I counted up that it was 27,000 that I did. Well, around about that 27,000 miles this last year. Although this season, so from March to October, it was like 27,000 miles I did in one car or another. And obviously I didn't do every fixture, so the BSN van will have gone significantly further than that. I would have thought probably another few thousand miles on top. I would think. Well,
that's actually a nice segue into my next question. So let's do it, Ian Brrannan. I've alluded to it already in the intro. You're doing well to continue your excitement, if you don't mind me saying. Tell us, you and some of the BSN crew are about to head down under for work, in inverted commas, for the first time providing live coverage of the Australian Championship, as I understand it, which is a wow thing to be involved with, Ian. You're going to tell me, though, it's going to be a hard slog and you're not going to enjoy very much of it.
Well, it's only 10,000 or 11,000 miles, so it's just a bit further than Poole or Plymouth. It's coming up quick now, and we're gonna have to start getting our head in the game, really. But yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Now, we did do a meeting last year, two meetings last year from Mildura, including the one round of the Australian Championships, but that was done remotely. So we set up a green screen studio in Martin's front room in Darlington, and so we were there with this virtual studio thing, and talking about this speedway that was going on in Mildura, and it was 40 odd degrees and everybody was melting there, and literally outside the window the snow was falling, and you couldn't have two opposite ends of the weather spectrum. But this is the first time obviously the Australian Championships have been streamed before from Australia, but this is the first time it's sort of all been brought under one umbrella for British fans, and I say for British fans or indeed European fans, because there is a bit of a quirk that if you are an Australian watching this, you will be able to watch it in Australia, but it's through a different service because of a different company at Gilman, the Gilman Rounds. They've got an existing contract there. So it is slightly different for people in Australia, but for everybody else, you will be able to get all of the Australian Championship in the one place and watch it through the course of the week. As for our workload, it is going to be a bit of a flying visit, really, in terms of when you factor in that it's going to take us, a good couple of days to get there and back. So we go to Melbourne. Well, it's myself and Greg, and Ben and Martin are going sooner because they're having like a holiday first.
A well-deserved holiday, they would say. I'm sure it is Ben and Martin.
That's right. Well, yeah, absolutely. So they're spending Christmas and that there, and then myself and Greg are going actually on New Year's Eve. So we'll be getting on the plane in one year and getting off it in a different one. Oh. So it'll be pretty good. So that means that we're doing the Phil Crump meeting on the 27th will be the first from Mildura. So physically, myself and Greg will be right here in my house doing the commentary there remotely.
I was processing that. I'm thinking he flies out on the New Year's Eve, but he's doing a meeting on the 27th.
Yeah. Okay. So that one will be done from here.
Okay.
But we've got our crew, of course, there physically running it. So that will be the only sort of hybrid one on that front. Okay. And then, so New Year's Eve, we get there New Year's Day night, and then we've got like a day to sort ourselves out. And then, it's two meetings back to back on the Saturday and the Sunday. Is that the 5th and the 6th, or the 4th, 3rd and the 4th? Hang on a minute. We just check the dates here for you, so you don't have to. 3rd and the 4th. 3rd and the 4th. So that's rounds 1 and 2 at Albury. Albury Wodonga, so called because it's right between Albury and Wodonga, right in the middle, on the border between Victoria and New South Wales. And then on the Wednesday, we've got Mildura. Mildura is about a good 6-7 hour drive, I think, from Albury, so that's going to be a bit of a trek. And then the Friday is the 4th round at Gilman. And then on the Sunday, it's the FIM Oceania Championship on the 11th, which will have, as will the 27th, a few British riders involved there as well, including Scott Nichols, Leon Flint, Luke Harrison, Luke Becker from the United States is going to be in there as well. So that'll be a bit of a mishmash of all sorts of people in those ones. But obviously the Aussie Championships will be done over those 4 rounds, and there will be a new champion because Brady Kurtz is staying in the UK.
Okay, interesting. That's a bit of an exclusive that I didn't know on 360. So thank you. And listen, it sounds fantastic, and I'm sure to your point, it'll be quite an aggressive schedule. You're not going to have too much time to lie on a beach, etc. I'm sure, but I'm sure there'll be some downtime in between, and you'll have a fabulous time, Ian. So best wishes with that, and we look forward to watching the watching the stream back here in the snow, etc. that we might have. Ian, let's come away from the sunshine and back to the wind and rain outside. Listen, looking closer to home, Ian. It's been already a pretty turbulent close season for British Speedway, certainly at Premiership level. It kind of looks like the Championship are a little bit insulated. I appreciate that formal announcements etc. have yet to take place, but when you piece together what we are reading about and seeing online, then you can draw that conclusion. Just speaking personally, I just wondered if you wouldn't mind, just top of mind, just sharing your thoughts and your hopes, I guess, for British Speedway as it emerges into season 26.
Well, I mean, we want a good season, don't we? We want a good season. We want entertainment. Obviously, it's well documented the situations that are being thought about at this moment in time, TV deals and all that. That's out of our hands. Nobody knows, what's really happening until after the AGM's confirmed or any other sort of formal announcement. If they do come to some sort of agreement sooner than that, maybe they will. I don't know. But yeah, as you can tell, like, let's look at the Championship because that certainly is a league that looks at the teams have announced their riders and they're looking good to go. And there's some great lineups there, and there will be some really interesting battles. Obviously, it's Speedway comes down to, as much as anything else, who copes best with the injuries as well, and it's all best laid plans at this stage. It's what happens when your star man goes down sometimes with some of these teams, and that can be a real blow. But certainly we're seeing strong lineups from Glasgow. Berwick have put together a handy looking side so far. Edinburgh have made some good signings. Redcar have got a solid team of familiar riders that know their track well. Obviously, they've had to make some changes, as have every team with this sort of one rider over 8 thing. So that's sort of caused a bit of upheaval. And then, even Plymouth, they've got Danny King and Scott Nichols there. So it's going to be handy throughout. And I don't see any teams where you look down and you think, well, they're going to struggle. Because even the teams that maybe previously you would have put in that bracket have got riders that are going to deliver because they're too good not to deliver. So, yeah, it's looking good from that point of view. Obviously, it would be good to have a big TV deal and to be able to, look at things as, what we used to, and we'd love to have more teams, but that's not in our, anybody's control at this moment. But, what we want is, we want good meetings. We want exciting racing, because that's the sort of stuff that you can share online. And these days on social media, that's a really important thing. So we want these really close, exciting battles that you can share freely and maybe get people to take it in. And I don't think we're even looking. It's interesting. I had this conversation with someone I never met, and at a sort of a work sort of networking thing. I ended up getting talking about Speedway. And this is the thing, that we have so many, everybody's been to the Speedway at some point, it seems. Everybody knows somebody that's, I used to go when I was a kid, never been since. So we need to get these people out. It's not, people always go on about, getting people into Speedway. There's loads of people into Speedway. There's millions of people into Speedway. They're just not coming.
Yeah.
So we just need to awaken that genie and get them in there. And that comes from us, that comes from particularly yourselves there, but, encouraging people to go along, because I've just seen a debate somewhere about people saying about why TV is important for getting people to come to Speedway. I don't think it is. I have never, in all the podcasts I've done and interviews I've done, certainly with the Humans of Speedway podcast that I did, I ask, how did you get into Speedway? How did that come into your life? And I have not spoken to one single person who is involved in Speedway now in any way, shape or form, who went just because they happened to see it on TV by accident. Nobody, not one. The only person who even went based on just a whim of seeing a poster was Neil Machin. He's the only person I've ever spoken to who just went along to see what the fuss was about.
Okay.
Everybody else has gone with someone. Their friends, their family, their mum, their dad, their granddad, their auntie, whoever. They've been taken. And that is what we need to do. We've got to take people, get them in there. Yeah, they'll either love it or hate it. They'll either love it or hate it. There'll be no middle ground. But that's what we need to do. And get them back in there, get them in the groove again. And yeah, TV is great. We need the TV exposure, and TV, obviously the money that comes from TV is transformative, but using it, saying it's the thing that's going to bring new fans in, I don't think that's the case, because that's not how broadcasting works either. Commercials, advertising, I do a lot of that, and it takes a lot to convince someone to actually, even with an advert, even an advert is not going to work. What's going to work is you getting them in your car and driving them there. That's going to work.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And if there's one action that everyone watching this interview, Ian, could take next season, it is to, as you just said, bundle a neighbour or someone from their work into their car and take them, even pay for them generously, pay their admission, and introduce them to the sport, the live spectacle that Speedway is. Yeah, and fingers crossed that they and you know what, obviously I can reference Glasgow because I go there, and I've got a network of Speedway-minded friends, and I know, because people have been telling me the last few months, that the semi-final, the final at Ashfield last season, people were encouraged to take workmates along to that, and those workmates are now badgering to know when the first season is going to be next season. So it does have some success rate to do exactly that, Ian.
Yeah, there you are. And what Glasgow have done is great, but it just proves the point. That is how you get people in, get them in there, and if clubs can give away free tickets for your first attendance and whatever, then fantastic. That's what it needs. That's going to work more than anything else.
A curveball question, Ian Brannann, back on the BSN theme. I want you, without any explanation, you don't need to say anything, you don't need to qualify your answer. Name me 3 tracks or stadiums that you most enjoy visiting.
3 tracks I most enjoy visiting. Well, Redcar, because it's only half an hour away. Where else is good? Oh, well, Glasgow. Always enjoy a trip to Glasgow. We always get looked after there. No, genuinely, we know when. And I mean, I like them all. They've all got their quirks and stuff. And probably Workington. It's just like an old school. It's a new track, but it's an old school track. You know what I mean? It's like big banking. I like the tracks with banking on.
Yes. I think there's something a little bit extra, a little bit different about those type of circuits. Yeah. Ian, we're coming to a close, but a kind of similar question to the conversation we've just had on 360. We've been doing 360 since about April time, so this is episode 33. 33 weeks ago we started, essentially, and we have tried our best to kind of to surface different angles about different subjects around all things Speedway. So we have, and we don't have all the answers, right? We don't have all the answers, but we've tried to be positive and talk the sport up, and we've tried to propose different things that the sport could look to either introduce for the first time or reintroduce. Why sometimes reinvent the wheel? Because there are things from Speedway's past that they could quite easily, I think, reintroduce, and it would add to the product, it would add to the spectator interest, it would add to the sense of value for money, etc. So just on that, just in that area, and building on what you said a couple of minutes ago, do you sense? And I'm not being critical of. I don't mean to be critical of any individuals here, but I'm talking about the sport generally. Do you sense that British Speedway is pulling hard enough to try and actively encourage more supporters to come into the sport and to acquire more inward sponsorship and investment, really?
It's difficult for me to know about the sponsorship kind of angle, because I think every club obviously operates in different ways, and I'm not party to what they are or aren't doing. I think that certainly in terms of getting people in, it's not an easy job, right? No. I think a promoter's job is not an easy one. I think everybody can sit there and say that they would do this or would do that, but I think there's probably some fairly harsh realities when you actually get there as to how much time it takes. It is a very, very busy job, pressured job, because a lot of times promoters have got other businesses to run as well, and of course, which actually pay for the Speedway, so they need to look after that. I think in terms of promotion, we probably do need to do a bit more in social media in various forms. I think that for me, just generally, I think riders have the power to communicate one-on-one, because I think people have relationships online on social media with individuals, not with organizations. And I think that you've got to break that down and encourage riders to be more social, because some of them, some don't even have any kind of social media account, or someone else manages it for them, or whatever. And I know that they're busy, but even just flipping your phone open and just recording a short video after a meeting would be great. I see, obviously we get a lot of these graphics of, 0 + 0 + 0 + 1 = 1. Yes. And that doesn't really sell the excitement of Speedway. Even if you've had a bad night, just get your phone open, do a quick video and say, hey, well, it didn't work out tonight. And you can maybe talk a little bit why, because that doesn't tell the story, 0 0 0 1, that could be an issue with the bike, it could be an issue with someone else, it could be a mechanic, it could be a referee excluded you and you didn't agree with it. I don't know, but I think there's opportunities there to add a little bit more context and makes it more engaging. And I think we're in an era now where video is a real key driver. TikToks, Instas, all these kind of things. Get on there and just do more video, and it doesn't have to be overly produced with logos and this, that, and the other. Just flip your phone open every now and again, and that stuff, I guarantee the video stuff will reach much further than any of these like graphics that they put up that have got sponsors and stuff on. One rider I did see doing it really well was Nikolai Clint, actually, and he did these videos where he'd stand at the back of his van and talk about the meeting, and he's got all the logos there for his various sponsors just straight away on the back of the van. That's one way you can do it without having to invest in any gear. But a lot of riders have got these pull-up banners and stuff in their pit bay now or whatever. Just do stuff, communicate like people communicate. And we don't, we need to get away from this whole sending out a statement and press releases and stuff in the old school. We need to do that as well. But, we need the immediacy now of just do a video, and it'll take you a minute, and that's going to be far better than getting all these graphics made. I think that will be a good thing, but just be better on social media, because whilst I was saying about TV doesn't bring people in, I think social media can, and that's where we need to be. I think personally, with Speedway as a whole, clubs, riders, everybody needs to be better on that. And why don't riders do their own podcast?
That's a good shout. Yeah, that's a good
shout. Why not? Yeah. I mean, some did. I know they're busy, but that would be good.
Well, in this day and age, you could, you can, as you say, you can get your phone out and do some sort of basic thing from the back of your van. If you can't get to sleep one night, you can just do a live broadcast.
Yeah,
See, I told you you
stuff
were,
like that.
I told you were a wise man, Ian Brannann. I told you, I knew it. Ian, listen, thanks very much for making some time to talk to us on 360 Speedway. Remember to pack your after sun. Remember to pack your sun hat.
Mosquito repellent, I think. Spider repellent, snake repellent.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Kangaroo repellent. There's a video. There's a video on YouTube. There's a video on YouTube. You can Google it, and on Prone YouTube, put Mildura kangaroo fight. Okay. And there's a guy fighting a kangaroo in the river in Mildura. That will be Greg Blair in a few weeks' time, and I look forward to bringing you coverage of that live. That
would go viral, Greg, if he's watching. Yeah. Ian, listen, we very much look forward to seeing what you and the BSN crew have in store for us in 2026. We will see you around the circuits. And once again, thanks for taking time to speak to us on 360 Speedway, Ian.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and all the best to you and the rest of the guys, and all the best to look for next year.
Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed the discussion with Ian Brannann, watching on YouTube or indeed listening on Spotify or another podcast service, please do hit that little thumbs up button below. A small but very powerful action that you can help out the channel. Stay tuned, don't do a thing. Episode 33, Fans Pulse Lap 2 will auto start imminently. We'll be talking about the season in preview/review.